Don't matter to me.
So anyway, we're WolfPunch.
WolfPunch.
You're Yezin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Yezin.
Very good. I'm Kyle.
I'm Michael.
I'm Dan.
Who's
Yes.
WolfPunch though?
With our powers combined, we're collectively
We are
WolfPunch.
Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't like this movie. I'm just gonna say
So-
that.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna be drinking anyway,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to be a bad person, but I need to. This is not a good movie, and I'm not going to say that it is.
And I don't think it's misogynistic to say that
No,
this is a bad
it is.
movie.
Okay, let's just pop this. I'm just gonna go ahead and start. This movie is not important. Okay, your movie is only important if it's good. And me and Michael were talking about this the other day. Is like if I look at some of the best movies that came out last year, like Hereditary, Annihilation, The Favorite, Thoroughbreds. These are all way better movies with female leads, all different genres and stuff. Nobody cared because it's not a fucking superhero movie. Because we only go to the theaters to watch superhero movies and animated films. And after 11 years, Disney finally gets around to its 21st movie starring a female character. And
You mean it's 21st Marvel movie?
yeah.
Okay, so it's
Disney has made more than 21 movies.
Right.
But
just making sure that's clear for the audience.
yes.
Yeah, it's 21st Marvel movie.
21st
First one starring a female
First one
character.
starring a woman. And now, like, the internet is like, what a great moment. And all of these sexists they have a big problem with it. We've got to fight it. And I'm like, look, one, we've already had female superhero movies. We've had better female movies. And another reason why this one isn't particularly important is because this is just the first of her movies. It's okay to say that this movie is bad. We all went to the theater and saw this. We all paid for it, supported it, and they're going to make more of them. But because they're going to make more of them, that's why it's okay to criticize what is wrong with this one.
All right, so I'm going to preface your preface. Look, I understand, let's, take a step back. We are a group of 4 guys.
Yes.
And this movie might be important to someone. You know what I mean? There's maybe someone out there takes their, their child, their little girl to Captain Marvel. They love it because they're a child.
Sure.
And it's inspirational to them. And that's okay.
That is fun.
Yeah.
But
Wonder Woman is a better movie.
But
and it did this 2 years before.
Yeah, I agree. But so we can get that. Which I'm just getting that out of the way.
Yes.
So that all this criticism, all this criticism is taken with the understanding that we get it. If this movie was important for your kid,
Yeah,
Sure.
We're also not saying that they're not allowed to make mediocre action movies starring women. That's totally
Of
fine.
course not.
Yeah.
The issue we have with this is just that pretending that it's a big deal and trying to sell it on that point, when the movie itself is kind of just a big.
Yeah,
shit.
right away, I'll concede that I'm a white heterosexual man. I don't have to struggle to see that represented in cinema.
So you're the villain in Captain Marvel.
Yes,
Yikes.
I wish there were more fat people in movies that weren't just comedy relief for greasy sex perverts. But that's fine. Overall, it's I have the privilege of not looking for someone like me represented in a movie. I understand that. I'm willing to concede that point. But the thing is I can't help but be a little cynical and wonder that whenever there is such a big controversy over a movie starring a female character, I wonder if it's because the movie is bad and that's the only marketing they can do for it. Wonder Woman didn't have this problem, at least not to this scale. The most comparable thing I can think of is the 2016 Ghostbusters.
I would actually agree with that. Wonder Woman didn't have a huge backlash, except from leftists who didn't like that Gal Gadot was IDF. But that aside, Wonder Woman didn't have a huge and again, it's not that sexists won't present backlash towards a good movie because they will
for sure.
But I do think that in the case of Captain Marvel,
well, okay, let me put it this way: there's a reason why, nobody gives a fuck about Annihilation, which was a way better movie with a large cast of female characters, a diverse cast of female characters. And it never really focused on that. That wasn't a big part of its marketing because a Disney Marvel movie is like, whenever you're going out and you're defending this, you have to remember that you're really you're defending a corporate product that is also just designed to sell toys and merchandise
on a global scale.
On a global scale. That's what they want to do. So that's why, like, Disney is trying to ignore... I'm assuming they paid off James Woods to say that he's boycotting this movie because, I mean, that guy is not relevant at all, and saying that, like, oh... Marvel is...
Why is James Woods boycotting this movie?
Because Marvel is anti-white men. And out of 21 movies, 19 of them star white men. It's just factually not true. Doesn't warrant a response. Okay. And I can't help but wonder, is this, like, Marvel trying to, like, pat itself on the back and try to ignore the fact that they've only done movies with straight white men for the past 11 years, and now they're like... Now that we're doing something different.
Now we're the champions.
Now we're the champions
of feminism.
Of the people. Yeah.
After it took them 20 years.
Yeah. So I just want to get all of
this
this out of the way first before we shit talk this movie, which we are going to do. I don't think any of us in this room have a problem with superhero movies starring female characters at all. It's just this movie was not good. I don't think any of us liked it, and we are going to shit talk it. I just wanted to clear the air in saying, while we are all men, we're not aligning ourselves with any of these incel, gamergay, whatever terms they like to call themselves, people who are shit talking.
No, cool. Completely agreed. And that being said, too, like, if you did enjoy this movie, or if you were able to, like, identify with the character and stuff and enjoy it on that aspect, we're not trying to take that away from you in any way.
Not at all.
I mean, because it's... I was actually thinking about this a lot. The other week, Kemp and I went to go see the new Gundam movie in theaters. And, like, if I shut off my whole fanboy brain of just wanting to see, like, cool robots, like, blow shit up for, an hour and a half, it's not that great a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just kind of like, I enjoyed that because it was appealing to, like, the really base nature of wanting to see the cool shit that I care about doing stuff. So if you enjoyed it in that regard, then we do not even want to, like, try to take that away from you. We're just...
Yeah.
So that's a big thing about...
I think we should take a second before we keep on with the prefacing.
Yeah.
So Captain Marvel is a movie about it's a Marvel movie starring the character Captain Marvel, played by Brie Larson. It's set in the 90s. I know we just talked about politics for like 5 minutes. Now I'm talking about the plot. It's set in the 90s. It stars, but I'm talking about the plot for a reason. It stars Brie Larson as Veers, but also Carol Danvers.
Yep.
She is a Kree soldier living on the planet Hala, who finds out that she's not a Kree soldier.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Wait, what part did you spoil?
She finds out.
Oh yeah. Fuck.
We kind of see that in like the first few minutes.
Look.
It's in the previews, like that she's not a Kree.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I was drunk. I fell asleep for a good 15 minutes of this movie, mostly at the beginning.
Anyway,
and I got that.
Point is, the movie starts in this incomprehensible. There's an incomprehensible start where she's a soldier on the planet. She's a Kree soldier fighting a war that we don't understand. I don't even know if it's a war. It's kind of a war, but it's we just see 5 commandos shooting other shapeshifters, and we have no idea what's going on, and she's training with this dude who's giving her fighting advice.
Yeah.
And it just starts off with this weird, and I'm saying this because this is it's the worst opening to any Marvel movie.
Yeah.
It
was really clunky.
In that there's just, these Marvel movies are for kids,
sure,
right? Primarily, and they're teenagers, or they're for
They're
mainstream
for
audiences.
as many people as they can squeeze money.
They're supposed to be understandable. You watch it, you're supposed to be easily readable. And then the way this movie starts out, it's just this weird. It's not really introducing who the character is, because we're being introduced to her in living a false life. Sort of.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, I remember watching the movie and she's having these bad dreams, and then she comes up to Jude Law and she's like, I can't sleep. You want to fight? And then they train, and then he's like, you're too emotional, and that's why I can beat you up. So why don't you go talk to this computer? And then they go on this action mission. And, I mean,
That's when you fell asleep.
That's immediately when I fell. I finished my
But
candy.
like, you know what I mean? Like waking up from a nightmare and then being like, "Hey, teacher, do you want to fight?" is like the worst introduction to any Marvel character they've ever given.
Yeah.
It's the worst way to introduce a character and tell us about who they are, because like, what are we finding out about her? She likes to fight.
Well,
I mean, does she?
You're also keying into something that was like a huge issue I had with the movie, is that she has amnesia. She doesn't know who she is, and like kind of the whole arc is her discovering that. But the issue with that is it doesn't give you a whole lot to latch onto with her character whatsoever, outside of like, oh, she'll stand up for what she wants when she.
You know what though? I kind of ripped this movie a lot a couple weeks ago, but now I'm going to come back to it. We just saw a Battle Angel Alita starring a character that has amnesia. Much better characterization of a character with amnesia. Because, like, yeah, she's amnesia and she's, like, confused. Whereas with this, she has amnesia, so she just likes fighting. Yeah. Like, there's no... Yeah, like, you get no sense of who she's been... Yeah. Since she lost her memory, she just like, oh, I'm just doing commando shit. Like, okay.
Alita took time to like ground the character and establish like relatable human relationships, whereas this one is just like there's like the mentor, student relationship with her and Jude Law, but that's kind of it.
Sure, and yes, and don't feel bad because this movie is going to make me cite a lot of movies that I didn't like in a more positive way. Part of the problem with this instantly, and part of the reason why I'm saying, don't worry, Michael, Yezen didn't really spoil anything, is when, I understand what they're trying to do here. They're introducing this character, and I have to give this movie credit to an extent of, like, exploring themes to an idea of, like, she's a character who her mentor is keeping her in check and, like, telling her that she's too emotional, keeping her from her full potential. They have that little lock thing on her neck where she can't use her superpowers and stuff. But a big problem there is it's like, it is also not a spoiler that Jude Law is the villain, because there's no real scenario where you think the guy who is beating you up saying you're too emotional and you're too curious about where you come from and your actual potential, so just let me kick you around a little bit and tell you to be a good soldier and don't think.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to be evil at the end.
Not to mention every time they shoot him, he's always like shrouded in shadow and looks villainous.
Yeah.
Like very, very obviously so.
Plus, he's British.
Plus, isn't like one of the guys on their commando mission? Isn't he in Guardians?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one of the guys
like a bad guy.
is
So
a bad
you're
guy.
like,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
And they are reporting to the villain from Guardians.
Yes.
In the movie. So
like at least again with Alita Battle Angel, you're taking the time to develop the character, and also like they dance around with like a little misdirect of like is Christoph Waltz gonna be shady or anything?
Oh, that was Christoph Waltz.
Jesus Christ! In Alita Battle Angel?
Oh no, I thought you meant in. Who is the scroll guy?
Oh no,
Ben
that was the guy in
Mendelsohn.
Ready
Ben
Player
Mendelsohn.
Okay, I thought he was Chris. I thought you were saying he was Christoph Waltz. I was like, I didn't.
No, I was.
Okay, never mind. Keep
I
going.
was talking about Alita Battle Angel.
I know,
I was also talking about how that movie.
I
did a
thought
better
you meant.
job. I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, no, you go ahead.
I'm done. That was my point.
Okay. Anyway, so right, I was talking earlier how the movie is really bad at establishing its character and bad at establishing its plot, because you spend about, because the main plot starts when she gets stranded on Earth, as we can see from the trailers, so it's not a spoiler. But it takes about 45 minutes to get there.
Didn't for me.
Kyle fell asleep.
Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
She gets stranded on Earth about 45 minutes into the movie. And I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but there is a lot of like really nonsensical points in the movie that are kind of just there because they thought, oh well, this would make. So for example, she's an alien who is from like an advanced civilization, yet she actually hasn't been. She gets down to Earth and she hasn't been trained to disguise herself on the planet Earth at all. Like she's down on Earth, but she's just like treating. She's just assuming that the people of Earth know about aliens. So it's that like typical like Star Trek like Prime Directive thing where like, oh, if they don't have space travel, we don't reveal ourselves.
I do know.
Very
You're bringing intelligence into this conversation.
I'm talking to the audience. Okay, so this movie doesn't have that, at least not with Brie Larson's character. Like she just comes down to Earth and she's like, oh hey, do you know I'm from the Kree Star Force? Do you know where? And it's like, is it supposed to be that she's just inexperienced, or is it Or is that just like not?
They just wanted to do something that would be funny and
Yeah, they
fish
just
out of
played it for
water.
laughs.
Yeah,
it
they
works
were
with
playing
Thor.
it for laughs, but it was just like a really. I was watching like I'm not a nitpicker, you know, with things like these, but I'm like.
No, when a
That's
movie's
weird.
bad, then all the terrible things are easy to nitpick.
Yeah, like all that stuff starts like what is happening? Like she doesn't
Like,
like
when a
why
movie's
why
good,
is she
you don't-
acting why is she acting like Kree Star Force is something that everyone knows about?
No, I completely agree with that sentiment because I think I mentioned to you guys before after seeing it, I don't remember the last time I felt disconnected from a movie, like watching it. Like, I was engaged with this about as much as I was like watching like Bright on Netflix kind of thing, where I'm just like sitting here just like,
Oh yeah.
things are happening, nothing has drawn me in to like be invested in just about anything that's going on. So I'm just sitting here just thinking of like, why this is dumb, why is this happening, this doesn't make sense, like this is kind of annoying that this is happening like this. It's like that line was just telegraphed and played for laughs in a really overly obvious, frustrating way. And that kind of sucks, because at no point was I like pulled into the story and was like, oh, that's kind of cool that they did that, outside of like the de-aging special effects they used on Sam Jackson and Agent Coulson.
Yeah, that
was
was
pretty
kind
good.
of
Like
impressive.
that's the
good.
only like really nice thing I have to say about this movie is like the special effects on them were really good and very convincing.
I would say there was one good scene in this movie. I think I was talking to Kyle, and I think the scene where it's a spoiler. We'll get to it later. But
Is it the No Doubt scene?
No.
no,
No.
it's the scene where the scroll they're in the barn or they're in the house and the scroll guy shows up and he's just like being all civilized and like trying to like have a conversation of like that is kind of fun.
Yeah,
But,
I actually have to admit I liked Ben Mendelsohn in this movie. I didn't love it,
and I'm not a huge fan of him.
but I was like, if there's a standout in this, I guess it's him.
And that's kind of bad. An actor that I really don't like was the standout
Like
performance.
I kind of like Ben Mendelsohn, but I like it when he's just like chewing apart the scenery. And this one, he just felt like a little like subdued compared to like fucking Rogue One and shit. And I haven't seen it yet, but apparently he's great as the villain in Robin Hood. He threatens to boil someone in like a vat of their own piss.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
I like Ben. I like him too. I just think like it was fun to see him. I think this is the first time I've seen him play that kind of character. It wasn't even great. Like I wasn't like I'm not recommending this movie for that character or performance. But
all right, enough about Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
Let's press on. Let's go
Yeah.
forward. What else we got?
Well,
We're not steam this fucking fast already? Oh my
I'm not out
god.
of steam. I just
No,
okay.
it's just-
fine. I'll.
You're like shut up about that. Let's move on.
There
What else
there
do we
are things
have?
I'm like wondering like when do I want to get into them?
I mean, because there's other things that I want to talk about too, but it's kind of like separated from the plot. Because kind of doing a plot recap now.
Yeah.
But just in general, I kind of want to get you guys' vibe on this. I got a lot of Rogue One themes from this movie, and how it was like prequel vibes, like setting shit up, lots of like overdone pandering, like tonally disjointed in lots of the fucking film.
I did not get that. I mean, it could be there. I just
I
didn't
could
really
see that because I did get like prequel like flash like.
I got some of
flashes.
that, but a lot of it might have happened in parts that I missed.
Well, it was mostly just like all the whole like really forced like wink wink 90s shit that they were throwing at you, kind of like Rogue One was with
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the
You know,
original
I'm actually
trilogy.
like I'm kind of a sucker for like period nostalgia.
No, I am too.
But I think it totally failed in this movie.
Oh,
in
yeah.
every way.
There was absolutely no '90s nostalgia.
From the instant, like her 9 Inch Nails shirt looked like one you'd buy today, not one that
Yeah.
you'd wear in the 90s.
and like there was no. I didn't really get a strong '90s vibe from anything except she's in a blockbuster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like she didn't look '90s character.
And that's the thing. I don't want to reward like
Shameless
movies that
nostalgia
like are just like
pandering.
nostalgia pandering.
But if you're gonna
when
do
it's
it-
done right, it's nice. It is comforting. It is enjoyable when it's like a nice little like treat.
It's
But it's
nice,
like not even in this.
Yeah.
movie.
it's nice if it feels
Organic.
like a period piece almost. Like I didn't find out until yesterday that the part that you tried to wake me up for was to see a Melancholy and Infinite Sadness poster.
Yeah.
And it's like that is one of my favorite albums of all time. But don't bother me with that. It works if your movie feels like it's set in that time period.
Yeah.
But this is just dispersed little jokes of like, this movie takes place in the 90s, so of course we have to play a Nirvana song. Here's a blockbuster. Do you remember how slow the internet was?
That's another thing that comes back to it is I feel like this movie doesn't have a personality.
No,
like, everything about it seemed very flat, and it seemed very by numbers, where it's like we don't really have anything really engaging to like propel this outside of like one-liners and the wink-winks to like the whole '90s thing.
Yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy, everyone has said, "Oh, this feels like an '80s film. This feels like an '80s sci-fi movie."
Yeah,
but it's not taking place in the '80s. It's just the tone that it conveys. It's not even trying to take place in the '80s. And like, there's nothing really '90s about this movie.
Anything that's
other than
like
flashes of the aesthetic.
Part of like the Marvel formula, like this movie embodies it. It's like this is like the bare bones. Like this is the Marvel's formula. Put out a movie. Like it really made me wonder. It's like, oh, if a director like what was it, Jonah Hill that did the mid '90s?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, if it had like a feel like that, would have been a better movie. Like I'm just saying,
all
like
the characters say the
visual.
N-word constantly.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like visually, like because the visuals were all very sterile.
I would agree.
Like,
I don't
like,
think there's been a single Marvel movie with this little personality to it.
Yeah. This one, that's what I'm saying. This is like the bare
This is coming
minimum.
from someone who has not been very thrilled with the personality of Marvel movies thus far. Like I'm trying to think of one that had less personality than this, and I think the
Thor 2.
No, it
I
had
would say
more personality.
Thor 2 had more personality than this. I would say the closest is like Avengers 2, but like if there was only one Avenger in it. You know what I mean? Like Avengers 2 lacks personality, but it has so many
just has Captain America in it.
That you're like, it has so many different heroes that you're like lose track of that. Whereas with this, it was like, all right, well, what if we didn't have a billion and also we didn't have a personality, like,
or really any looming threat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then a really forced climax with shit exploding for little.
Well, yeah, there really wasn't much of a threat out there.
See, like, part of me wants to,
which is, you know what?
Again, there's nothing driving the plot.
It would be okay. The lack of like a world-ending threat until the end would be okay.
Yeah.
If it weren't, the rest of the movie weren't so bad.
Yeah,
if there was something else to like move the plot along and like to hold your attention, you don't need that. Like, yeah, exactly. We complain about that a lot, actually. Like, you know, just the big stupid like sky laser, aliens coming down, like shoehorned in world-ending bullshit.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else.
The
to
gunship
really...
that's going to
That's
kill all
always the
smart
slippery
people.
slope with like big companies like Marvel. It's
I thought
like
you were going to say feminism.
no, it's like no, like people complain like, oh, I'm sick of the giant lasers in the sky, and then they'll make a movie. It's like, oh, we're not going to put this in it, but they make a bad movie. So then like, we don't like this. Like, oh, so you want more giant lasers in the sky? Like, it's like, no, like,
I mean,
just make a good movie.
To be fair, like, I mean, and I do want to commend the movie for its structure almost, except it's just not good. But you know, we're saying there was no real threat or anything, and I don't want anybody who's listening to this if they haven't seen the movie, and I don't know why you're still listening if you haven't, to think that like it subverts.
This is fun. I would listen to this if I had seen the movie.
Sure. Thanks. But I don't see why. Fuck. Now I forget what I was saying. No. Like it's not like subverting expectations in like an intelligent way or anything. Don't get me wrong. Like the end of this movie still has plenty of stupid shit in it where she flies up in the sky to punch missiles. So you still get all of your like big dumb explosions. There's just no context for them except a villain that we've seen before in another movie who dies in that other movie, so we know what happens to him.
And who is so bland and used as like something for like Chris Pratt to bounce jokes off of.
Yeah.
Like the worst choice for your fucking villain, basically.
He shows up to fire some missiles that she easily takes out by punching, and then
let's get the fuck out of here.
So it's like there was never a moment of tension there. And then it gets to like the part where she's going to fight her former mentor, and then she doesn't. And
it's like 2-second scene. Like
yeah,
I was actually very okay.
I was okay with that because I
that.
didn't want to have to watch it. But
I agree. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to give the movie credit for it because I'm like, that's.
This could have been a good scene if you had two good characters, and like I would have looked forward to a long fight scene.
I'll actually say this: I get what they were going for with that, and I think it was a good idea. It just the rest of the movie was so bad that it didn't feel rewarding. But the idea of her deciding that she doesn't have to, it's a spoiler.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. Fuck it. Let's talk about the feminism of this movie. Are you guys ready for that?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Oh boy.
Who's more qualified than 4 men?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To tell women what they should believe in and get out of this film.
Now, what did you want to say about feminism yet?
Fuck it. I'll do it. I will jump on this grenade. I think that this movie has like a really like watered down like poppy like pop feminism kind of thing going on, where it's just like it's sort of like delivered in really like like slogans and like, you know, like just common things, like the part where the guy tells her like to smile, and the part where like the men obviously are telling you like, yeah, you'll never be able to fly, you'll never be able to do this, and that's all like well and good, but I think there's an element of like pandering to all of that at this point.
What?
And then also I think that, so I'll say this, I feel like one issue that this movie is having already is that it's really, and I say issue as it not necessarily a good or bad thing, because for the people who make this movie, they might actually like this, is that there are a lot of like toxic men's rights people jumping out at this movie because it's it's an overtly feminist movie, and so a lot of like toxic men's rights people are like sort of jumping on this movie, and I'll say that like I actually don't think the feminism of this movie is all that in your face compared to what I thought it would be. I don't like, you know, in the trailer they have the part where it's like it's gonna take like, I don't remember exactly what it is, like it starts with her and then it becomes a hero, but it says her at first. So it's like really drawing on, it's like feminist, and it's also like drawing on like Hillary Clinton-esque terminology, or not terminology, like puns, like with the "I'm with her" thing. But the place where this movie like really, I don't know. So I guess I wonder how you guys feel about this. So, and Kyle, you and me have talked about this. It's like the difference between making a character powerful and making a character empowered.
Yes.
And I don't think there's necessarily a formula to this, but a lot of times, like, characters will, or writers will decide that, you know, the way to make a woman empowered in a movie is to make her, like, so much more powerful than everyone else, so that she doesn't really have to struggle. And I really got vibes of this in the movie. And this isn't something that you necessarily can't do. Like, in Superman, for example, Superman is strong enough to do anything. But Superman also isn't like going through like a base, like, or not. I don't know. The part where her and Nick Fury are in the base and they're trying to like find some files or documents or whatever, and they're investigating. You wouldn't put Superman in that situation.
No,
because that's not. Because you know there's no threat to Superman. You know that he's strong enough to get out of this. When he can take whatever he wants. Like, Superman's question is, how do I use the power I have?
Yeah. Whereas like, Superman also just wouldn't go do that because, like, I have the power to take whatever I want, and that's exactly why I shouldn't.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying that it's in this movie it was justified for her. I don't think there was anything morally wrong with her doing that. It just sort of they depict this moment as like a tense scenario. It's like, oh, she has to find the files, get them, and it's like, she is powerful enough to destroy this entire place. There's no threat to her here.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that this movie like is sort of contending with. I mean, it would be like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that like a character's powers sort of define what sort of challenges they're going to have, and what kind of challenges they're going to have should inform what powers you give the character. So you give Thor different shit to do than Captain America.
Yeah.
Captain America might have to like run away from people and like hide, whereas Thor, like, he has a gladiator fight. You know what I mean? It's different because they're different types of characters. Whereas Captain Marvel, they sort of gave her like Captain America like challenges.
Yeah.
For at least for the first half of the movie. Yet she has like beyond Thor level powers.
Yeah. So okay, well then we'll talk about this. The part of the problem here is, again, it's just Disney waited way too long to do this, and this is something that I know Yez and I, when we used to live together, we would have this conversation pretty often, where it was like they kept trying to push Black Widow because after like 5 or so years they realized, oh, we didn't do any female characters but we introduced this one. And she's not really a superhero, so the more you keep trying to push her, it doesn't really work.
They introduced her as a sex symbol.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes. And she's a super spy. I'm not saying that you can't do stories with that, but she's not a superhero. It doesn't really work as well in this context. And then they've just waited too long, and now they're like overcompensating. Where they, before this movie even came out, long before it even came out, they automatically decided she's the strongest character, she's the strongest superhero that we've created yet, and she's going to be the main character of our next phase. There's nothing actually wrong with that. You just sort of start to get the impression of like, well, we don't want to hear any more criticism thrown our way, so she can beat up everyone else in a fight, and she's going to be more important.
Well, I'll say this.
I'm not done.
Okay.
Sorry, but the other thing is like, I don't think that the feminism in this movie is heavy-handed or offensive at all. Like,
I don't think it's blunt and unsubtle as heck.
It's
not offensive.
Like,
it's dumb. Cockpit. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, I'll say like I'm gonna give the movie credit for at least attempting.
I'll say it's not Supergirl type feminism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna give it credit for like every female nerd friend that I have, whether they're into like comics or video games or whatever. They have far more stories than you could imagine of them just having to defend being there or having that interest. So the idea of exploring the idea of like her being told to smile more, or essentially being gaslighted by her mentors, or being told that she doesn't know what she's doing or that she's not good enough, I appreciate that attempt. Like it is exploring a theme that is relevant to people everywhere, more specifically women, and more specifically women who are fans of geek culture, which has never been very inclusive.
Yeah.
It's just, as you were saying, Dan, it's like, it's just not very subtle or nuanced put in there, so you can't help but kind of roll your eyes. And then, like, Yezin, you're saying, like, there's nothing wrong with making her the most powerful character. There's nothing wrong with that at all, except in this movie, there just never feels like a threat at any point at all. Even after they get out of, like, searching for files and everything, she can beat up all the Skrull. She can beat up all of the Kree. She can beat up all the missiles that they fire.
She can beat up the spaceships.
She can beat up the spaceships. Yeah. So it's like there's nothing wrong with your character being the most powerful at all. Like I point out that I'm like, yeah, Disney is trying to compensate for past mistakes. I'm just saying that because I fucking hate Disney. There's nothing wrong with doing that with your character. It just doesn't work in this movie because you have to make a stronger villain then. Yeah. Or a stronger circumstance for her to overcome, or a horrible problem for her to solve.
Yeah. Thematically, I think this movie is, like, the skeleton of it is actually pretty well done in how it sets up what it's trying to do in that regard, especially, like, when it comes to, like, basically her coming into her own power, like, removing the chip on the back of her neck, and then, like, finally, like, standing up and not being told she has to limit herself and become who she needs to be. That's actually done pretty well, I have to say.
Yeah. It would have worked better if, like, maybe if Jude Law was a likable character where we thought, oh man, but like I could see why she follows him or has some kind of loyalty to him, or
they had some sort of like actual like tangible friendship or some connection outside
of like
like
a betrayal.
It just felt like it was her superior officer kind of just being a dick to her and like telling her to be a soldier because she's a soldier.
Yeah,
I mean it felt a little clashing.
Right, it felt like she has amnesia and she doesn't remember the last 6 years. It feels like within those 6 years, she's made no meaningful connections that she has any like she has no. Well, can we get into spoilers?
Well, yeah, fuck it.
All right, fuck it. We're getting into spoilers. I don't know why you've been watching this if you haven't seen the movie, but except this is entertaining, so keep watching.
Yeah, we're great.
The best.
At the end of the movie, there's a moment where she sort of like declares herself, "I'm not Veers, I'm Carol Danvers," right? And it's like, okay, so the last 6 years of your life, did they mean like, did you have derived no meaning from that? Were there no meaning, like, is there no one you're gonna miss from your time in the Kree Space Force?
Thing I was confused.
That's something
with,
that
there was that blue-skinned girl who was like,
Widowmaker from Overwatch, yeah.
She like made the comment like, "Oh, I never liked you." Or whatever, and it's like,
is that why we never hung out? Like,
yeah,
no.
she like, and I was just like, so like, you're not friends with any of the people that they're just there.
Like you've just been hanging out for 6 years.
Thank you for bringing that up because that whole scene in general, like, is so problematic on so many levels for me because it gives me like flashbacks to The Force Awakens when like Finn just decides he's going to be a good guy now and has no problem just like killing all his old teammates and shit. And it's like, no, stormtroopers are evil. Let's kill them all. And it's kind of like coming back to this, like you said, like 6 years, like no personal relationships, no bonds. Like this should be like an emotional fight against her former comrades.
Yeah.
There's even the
it's
one who's like
Peter Quill and Rocket Raccoon started fighting.
Exactly. Like even one of them is like, "Don't make me do this," and she's like, "I'll make it easy for you then," or something. And it's fucking stupid. It's delivering pointless one-liners that are just trying to like make her sound cool, and it's playing that goddamn No Doubt song. So, the movie's telling you this is a big joke scene. Just laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There are movies have done this before, like the idea of a soldier or a member of a team, like gaining a conscience, or like changing their heart about something they're engaged in, and then having to face their former comrades or allies or friends.
Yeah, but it's given dramatic weight.
Yeah, and it's given dramatic weight, and you have this sense that like this person can no longer abide what they've been doing, but they have all these other friends, and they have to like they're conflicted by that. In this, there's no and I mean, like an episode of Black Mirror does this better, and that's an hour-long thing. I mean, Black Mirror is good, but like where like a soldier like. It's actually like difficult for them to like to realize that what they've been doing is wrong, and then to see that their comrades and their friends are still doing that thing, and it's difficult. Whereas here, it's like there are no meaningful connections. Yeah. So I forget where I was before I got to. But anyway, so she declares herself Carol Danvers, and it's like, are you like who is? Was there nothing to who you were in the Space Force?
Guess not.
Nope.
Yeah.
Shit was boring anyways. Fuck it.
Yeah, this movie is just a lot of missed opportunities and things that don't land. In fact, really playing "I'm Just a Girl" by No Doubt during your big fight sequence is pretty much a good summary of this movie in general. It's about the extent of its subtlety, and then it's just this funky like pop song playing during what should be a dramatic moment, but it's only played for lightheartedness. Because the extent of her interacting with the people that she's palled around with for the last 6 years is just one-liners. Jokes that don't land, which is pretty much every joke in this movie.
Let's talk about Brie Larson for a second.
Okay.
That's true.
Sorry.
Let's talk about Brie Larson for a second here. And it's like a little bit of a divide. I don't think that Brie Larson... So, watching the trailer, I was like, every line delivery is bad. Brie Larson's a good actress. What the fuck is she doing in this movie? After watching the movie, I don't think that Brie Larson is a bad actress in it. I think that there's legitimately nothing for her to latch onto, and like it's not her fault. She did the best she can with an ill-defined character with no dramatic, with like very little stakes, very little in the way of like real relationships that were explored on screen. Like the only relationships she has that we're told matter are ones that pretty much only occur in flashback. Are her relationship with what's her name, like
Maria, the other pilot, you mean?
Maria. Maria's daughter, and Marvell. Like those are the only relationships she has that matter, and
they got like the worst child actress in the world in this movie.
Ooh, I'm gonna rip that shit apart.
She was horrible.
Oh yeah.
That's somebody's niece that they just let be in this. That was a nightmare. God. Yeah, I'm not gonna blame Brie Larson for any of this. I do think that she's a talented actress, and I do like her. But I'm not gonna defend her in this.
I'll agree with what Yezin said, only if I don't have to admit that I think she's good in this.
Yeah,
like, no, I don't think she's good.
Like
I
her
just
whole
think
performance
that there's
is
no way
smirking.
for her to be good.
Yeah.
And like I'm not gonna blame her for this going wrong. I don't know what it was like on set if they were saying no, you should be smirking in this scene. Why?
I legitimately feel like they were, because like what were they telling her to do?
I don't know.
Like what was her direction? Like obviously like in that scene we were just talking about, she wasn't told to feel conflicted.
Yeah.
So how's she gonna act?
No scenes. She just had
she's just like be fun. I think that's what they told her. Like you're fun. You're a hero. You're confident.
You're a strong, independent woman who doesn't need no man.
Yeah, you're fun.
I think it was like you're fun. You're edgy. you're confident. That's what they told her, and that's a good basis. Like you have,
But every person, even a well-balanced one, feels a full spectrum of emotions.
Yeah,
but no, because when the movie first started, and she has all these horrible nightmares, and then she sort of pluckily comes over to Jude Law's house and says, "Hey, I can't sleep. You want to fight?" I'm watching this and I'm just assuming, oh, she's very haunted by something that's disturbing her, but she's putting on a brave face and she's not going to face it, and so she's just going to behave differently. Except that maybe I missed it in my nap, but that mentality never changes throughout the entire movie. That's just constantly her personality is chipper and cocky and fun. Yeah, somebody just told her you're fun. The entire
you're
direction.
Fun.
Of
You're
this movie.
confident. You don't take no. And that's
And again,
this start.
This sounds again like just four men in a room who are like, God, this woman was fun and confident the whole time. So I'm not trying to sound that way, but watch the movie and tell me I'm wrong.
Well, the problem too, if she's fun and confident, it would be more interesting if it's oh, I have amnesia and I have all they keep playing up her superior keeping her down and manipulating her. It's oh, what if you're confident at the beginning when that's going on?
And
there's
again,
weird.
We just mentioned this earlier. Wonder Woman is the last woman-led superhero movie. It was the first one. It was the last one that was done, or the last big budget. I know they feel like they've done a Wonder Woman. I don't know.
Catwoman.
True.
Supergirl. We had a Supergirl movie.
Really?
Yeah, back in the 80s, man.
Oh wow. Okay.
Get
So
with
what's interesting is Gal Gadot is a horrible actress.
Yeah.
Who they gave the best possible material for her, and she's actually kind of good.
She's a lot of fun.
She's
in
a
the
bit
middle.
endearing because she has this whole childlike wonder to her. They give her more of a a persona basically.
Mm-hmm.
She's not just playing a type in it. She is I mean, I agree. I don't think she's a good actress, but you can kind of get into what her character's feeling in the moment and how she's trying to adjust to this world she doesn't understand.
Yeah, there's
she's
a lot
idealistic in a way that's unreal, that runs counter to the gritty, depressed world of World War One.
Yeah, it works well in a fish out of water story.
Yeah, her idealism proves to be exactly what that world needs. Whereas in Captain Marvel, there's none of that. You got Brie Larson, who's an incredibly competent actress. Go watch Room, and then she's just. She's cool and confident and fun in a world that doesn't seem to be facing any real crisis, except one we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Sure. I mean, they do that with a lot of actors in this movie, though. I mean, Annette Bening is a 4-time Oscar nominee, and then in this movie, she's a computer program that's dancing to Come As You Are, and I'm what the fuck happened? The Grifters is a great movie. What are we doing? No, everyone's a nightmare in this almost. Honestly, Ben Mendelsohn is maybe the standout for me. I mean, I always like Samuel L. Jackson, except for in Glass. But
I still have two big things I want to talk about.
Sure.
I know we want to get to the meta narrative of this movie. I feel like everyone wants to talk about that. But I just brought it up. I want to talk about the refugee crisis.
By all means.
Of this movie.
Yes.
Thank God they managed to relate this movie to Trump.
Which was honestly the biggest groaner moment I've had in theaters in a long time.
Wait, I think I said something too.
I think all three of us drunkenly went, oh.
So, at the beginning of this movie, Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, is a Carol Danvers, Veers, whatever, is a Kree soldier perpetuating a war against the Skrull, who are these ugly, shape-shifting aliens. And then...
That look like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Evolution. And then...
To be fair, they look like that in the comics.
Stop ripping off your betters.
Piccolo from Dragon Ball Evolution looks like a Skrull. Am I right?
Yeah.
At the end, we find out that the war is actually the fault of the Kree, who are imperialist bastards who are just fucking killing the Skrull, who are refugees who just want to find a home. And the plot of the movie becomes Brie Larson has help the refugees find a home. And it's just this extremely heavy-handed. There's like a line where he's like, "We're not terrorists, we're refugees."
Yeah.
And it's this thing. I'm gonna.
That's the exact sound you made in the theater, Tim.
Like for the record, pretty much all of our listeners know us. Like I'm a Muslim, I'm a Palestinian. I know all about this shit. I'm not like anti-refugee, but that was the most groaner moment. Like they could have. First of all, yeah. Thank you for making the refugees ugly. For one. Like,
technically they can look like anything.
Okay, whatever. That's.
They just look like creepy green space gremlins.
And I think, like, again, a lot of people are going to complain about the fact. And a lot of these white nationalist people are going to complain about the refugee thing too. But like, for me, like the real problem comes in like the heavy-handed, lack of subtlety approach to a refugee crisis that this movie depicts.
I agree with that a lot, and this might be a bit of a tangent, but it kind of reminds me a lot of this one video I watched recently that talked about like how Pocahontas is kind of like really dated and socially kind of awkward now, because at the end of the film they kind of just make it seem like, oh, the colonists and the Native Americans, they got along fine, and they learned to coexist.
Nothing bad happened after that.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what this movie exactly does, where it's like now Captain Marvel is going to solve the refugee situation and fly off and find them a home.
Yeah.
And it's just like, guys...
Well, I'm gonna get like left political because like I know that a bunch of like right wingers are on the internet saying like, oh, they depicted the refugees as the good guys, but in real life they're rapists. I'm gonna go the opposite direction and say I think it's actually like extremely tiresome to get narratives about in which marginalized people or refugees need to be saved from like a magical white person, and in this case, and lately it's like really been a thing, like a magical white woman, like the whole like, it's like it's like the white women are gonna save the refugees. Like no, have a I know this is like me being like leftist. Like I'm here for like a movie about refugees liberating themselves. Like I'm not here for like, oh yeah, see we're pro refugee. Captain Marvel, she realizes that what the Americans, Korea, are doing to the refugees is wrong, and she fixes it. That's not how it works. We're not...
They managed to put a white savior arc into this movie.
Yeah, they managed to put a white savior arc into a story. And that's why I have no qualms, like, criticizing this movie despite the fact that it's on some level trying to be feminist. Is that like, well, yeah, it's a feminist white savior movie. So
yeah, it's still Hollywood bullshit.
Sure. Yeah.
And Kemp, you didn't like that the Skrull were good guys because you won't get Secret Invasion now, right? That was your.
I was banking on that one. No, I bought Secret Invasion when I was primarily DC and read it, and I was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. Sorry,
because it's a secret invasion.
Yeah.
Even the plot's a secret to the people that made it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought. I want to hear more of you guys' takes on this. But like, I just thought the refugee thing was so heavy-handed. It's revealed in such like a nonchalant sequence. Like the idea that like, oh, this woman who's been perpetuating a war against these people for 6 years just has to hear like, oh no, we're not terrorists, we're refugees, and she's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
When you put it that way,
I want like that. That's so. I think that's something that like that's something that a lot of people who I feel like there are people who just want to like I hate to say this, who have like a lot of white guilt, who just want to like hear
pat
like
themselves on the back,
who just want to pat themselves on the back, like yeah, see, this is like be good to the refugees. Like
see, I don't even know if it goes to that extent. Where like I your criticisms here are totally warranted, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I could play devil's advocate and say like, well, if you're going to make you're making this movie starring this white woman, and if you want to like try to appeal, because like this is what sci-fi does, is it takes like current issues and events and then uses them as an allegory for another story. And it's like if you wanted to try to appeal to white people in America and say, see, things aren't always as black and white as you think. So now we're going to try to convince the people that we haven't already convinced to care. I can defend it in that extent. But the problem here is it's kind of just a really small part of the movie to excuse what happens in the third act, because there's no like real emotional weight to it, except you're like, oh, the bad guy, he's funny now, and we like him, and see he had a family on that ship. But it's kind of, it turns into more about like grabbing the Tesseract and hitting missiles, that you don't feel like, oh, I don't really feel any weight from her of like, oh, I was wrong the entire time.
Yeah.
I don't feel
It's
any...
just kind of brushed aside.
Like, there's just nothing to it other than it's a third act twist.
I fucking hate how this movie is making me reference movies that I hate. But,
Yeah, man, it's going to happen.
I'm going to reference Hostiles right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
I fucking hate Hostiles.
Yeah.
But even Hostiles spends the entire movie having Christian Bale slowly like come to grapple with his enemy's humanity.
Yeah.
And I don't even like that.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like she grapples with her enemy's humanity in all of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ain't no Star Trek 6, am I right?
And again, when I say it's pandering, like this movie is like pandering, because what it's doing is it's not. I don't think it's trying to change minds. I think it's trying to pander to the people that are already on its side. It knows it's gonna piss off the people that aren't on its side and have them post angry shit, and then kind of polarize people and get more people to go see this movie.
No, I completely agree. I don't think that it's trying to change minds. I'm saying I could advocate for the concept if it was.
But I think you actually can change minds when you have, like, if you want to change people's minds about, like, a refugee crisis or, like, refugees, then you have to, like, that only happens when you have a person who, like, genuinely understands the issue, give, like, a really honest and genuine take on that experience. I think that's how it's done. And or at least a morally interesting one. Whereas a moral interesting, you know, like something like Star Trek.
Love Star Trek.
I know. But the other way is like you actually like, you know, like you have someone who has that experience or relates to that experience, give a nuanced, real take on that. But with this, like Brie Larson's Captain Marvel's relation to the refugee crisis of like the Skrull is akin to like a upper middle class like suburban woman reading about like a refugee crisis like on BuzzFeed. Like there's no real, like she just heard like, oh, did you know that we're not terrorists but we're refugees? Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna save you then, and that's it. That's the extent of it.
Yeah.
And that's why it comes across as so ingenuine.
And then she repeats that at the church picnic, and then she's like, I did my piece.
Yeah, and then it's like it just coming to realize this way in which she can save the world is all that she needs to do to fix other people's lives. And I think that's why it comes across as so hollow. And I know other like people on the right are going to pick this apart from the other angle where it's like, oh, you justifying refugees. And I'm just sitting here like thinking
it was a lazy plot convenience. That's the way it was implied.
Yeah. And before I leave my social justice warrior pedestal here, I'm gonna say the other thing about this movie that actually really pissed me off the whole time. I am fucking sick. I feel like someone here knows what I'm about to say. Of movies that want to show that like a white man or a white woman is like cool, so they give them a black best friend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was just incredibly aggravated by that the entire time. And I know people might respond like, "What? So like she has to have a white best friend?" No, but it's transparent. You know, for me, I'm watching this and it's like it's very transparent that you know that you're marketing this towards like progressive people who like read BuzzFeed and who like have sort of like a really surface level take on social justice. And so you're like, oh, well, how do we communicate that she's not just smashing the patriarchy, but she's like intersectional? Her best friend is black. There we go. We did it.
I will say I could be a little upset about that, but then I just realized when you said this, when you said black best friend, I thought you were talking about Samuel L. Jackson. I forgot that character existed.
Because the character is like...
I thought her and Samuel L. Jackson became best friends.
I was like, why is he calling her
kind
best friends?
Kind
Well,
of.
it's funny that you mentioned that because it never really stuck out in my mind, but like it actually makes a lot of sense that, especially because it's Samuel L. Jackson playing that role, like probably like the most bankable African American actor like in Hollywood right now. Like there, it's like, oh, white people love him. Yeah, he can totally team up with Brie Larson, and then everyone else will be like, yeah, we have a person of color as a sidekick in that movie. No, that actually makes a lot of sense. What really stuck out to me as far as like being tacked on in Force, I think I mentioned to you guys, was her one friend Maria going up into space with her in the ship just to be there to fight.
It's like Lois
Yeah,
Lane going
I-
up to Zod's ship.
Yeah, I was literally bitching about that, where she's like, "Hey, so you're gonna come with me?" And she's like, "I don't know. I'm a mom now, and I'm like
I mean, she
trying
was
to."
a mom before, but like...
Yeah, I don't know. I was asleep at the beginning. But she's like, "I'm a mom, and like I've got to take care of my daughter, and if I die, then like what's gonna happen to her?" And then the little girl's like, "No, Mom, don't stay here and watch The Fresh Prince with me." And then she's like, and then Captain Marvel's like, "See, your 8-year-old daughter agrees with my plan, so it must be good." And then she's like, "Okay, yeah, peer pressure gets to me." I don't know. It was really dumb.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just this level of like... it's just kind of like a level of like really surface level, like really fake intersectionality. I'll put it that way. Like, I think that's literally what they're going for. Like, well, we want this to like, we want to like up our progressive. And again, I'm leftist as fuck, but like they're trying to like, they're like trying to up their progressive cred, so they're like doing it in these really superficial ways rather than actually like having like a black character with a story in there. Just like, oh, that was my friend. Who like they're just like there as like little props for her. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson has a story.
Samuel
L.
Jackson is a character.
I mean, Maria.
Yeah.
She's a prop. Like she's just like there. It's like, oh, you were my best friend, and I was sad when you left. But now I have a daughter, and now I'm gonna go up to space with you because my daughter thinks it's a good idea. Like, you just wrote that in for
Yeah,
her.
and
Like,
then she goes, "Thank you, my black best friend. I'm accepting." And then you're like, "Okay, yeah, I completely agree." I mean, it didn't really bother me because I'm not surprised that they're doing this, but it's like
it's not the worst thing, but it's just something that like is starting to drain on me. Where I see this in everything. Like whenever something wants to, I hate to throw out the word. I know I'm getting too leftist, but I hate to throw out the word like white feminism. But like whenever I see like these like really surface level takes on feminism, where it's like just somewhat like whenever we see these really surface level poppy like headline buzzword takes on it, you always see it's like a white lady with a black best friend.
Yeah.
And it's like we see this in other shows and movies too, and it's becoming a bother. I mean, for to their credit, we talked about 90s nostalgia, and that's the biggest 90s nostalgia move the movie has.
Yeah, it's the one that feels the most.
It's the most 90s thing about this movie is that Brie Larson is a white lady with a like black best friend who doesn't really have a story, but is there to like you're like the strongest person I know, and like she's like there to be wise and sassy and like that bullshit. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass the reins to you guys. Come up with some new topic of conversation.
Oh Jesus!
Can we talk about the how Nick Fury loses his eye for a second?
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Talk about CGI cats.
I mean, that was dumb. Like the movie kind of flirts with he's got 2 eyes, so maybe you'll see him lose it in this one. And before the movie came out, after like the first trailer, there were memes everywhere of like him petting the cat and it saying like, "The things you love the most hurt you the most," and then it cuts to him with an eye patch. And it was like a fucking internet joke. And then before this movie's over, the cat like claws his eye out. And you're like, what the fuck happened? Also, like
at least they didn't explain him being bald.
Yes, that is... you joke, but I am so goddamn tired of seeing that in movies.
I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit that they explained that the cat is why he's bald. Or not bald.
Cat is why he's bald.
Sorry, that the cat is why he's missing an eye. I never cared.
No,
how Nick Fury lost his eye, and I still don't.
I was hoping that it just wasn't going to show that at all in this movie.
You have to.
No, you don't. There is like anything could have happened to him between 1995 and 2012.
Glaucoma.
I don't need to know how he lost his eye. And like this cat is just another thing shoehorned in there. I'm like, hey, I love melancholy, I love 90s music, I love cats, love Samuel L. Jackson. You're just throwing all this shit at me that I like without any like interest or context. The cat was like a joke that goes on too long.
Yeah.
Well,
and cats are cute.
The
CGI
cat
cats
was
aren't.
a joke that I didn't understand.
it was so fucking obvious. Like, it's one of those things. It's another thing that, like, this whole movie is just a really horrible victim of, or does intentionally, is nothing is subtle, everything's on the nose, like, as fucking pointed as it can be. And the cat, it's like, from the beginning, it's like, oh, that's not a cat, that's some, like, stupid alien name. And it's like, no, it's a normal cat. Like, oh, now it's here with us, I guess it's coming. And they put, like, the muzzle on, it's like, ha ha ha, it's funny, because they're putting in a harmless cat.
They said it has a high threat level.
Ho 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 ho. And then it ends up being, like, a crazy fucking alien that has, like, tentacles that come out of its mouth and, like, kills people.
Yeah.
And it's just...
It would.
And then it does that gag like 3 times in a fucking row. And you're like, I got it.
Yeah.
I literally got it the first time you made a joke about it not being a cat.
Yeah, that would have been an actually funny joke if it was just a cat.
Yeah.
And if like these aliens were just afraid of cats because they didn't know.
Yeah, I was hoping that it was just a cat.
Yeah,
But then where would they have hid the Tesseract?
Yeah, up your butt. That would have been funnier because like there's that scene when they first reveal it where it shoots out those tentacles and it kills everybody.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like that bit in Guardians where like Groot shoots all those like branches out and like kills everybody. Except that's funny because Groot is like nice and gentle, and like right after he does it, he like smiles, and you're like, hey, that's a little funny bit. This movie, they're like, we have a cat, but it ain't really a cat, and we're gonna do this 11 times, and you're gonna think it's funny. And then I'm like, ooh, that's about as funny as the line about he doesn't know where she's gonna put her foot.
Yeah,
and they say in unison, your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I feel like there are moments in this movie that, like a lot of moments like that felt like it was sort of trying to do
Attempts
Guardians.
at jokes were made, yes.
Attempts at Guardians, I think,
yeah,
was happening.
Well, it's kind of the Disney levity where it's like they can't have it be too serious. So every now and then, like every 10 minutes, they have to have a stupid joke or reference to like keep it punchy for the kids. But everything fell flat in this film. So.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like I had flashbacks to like Ready Player One with this movie.
I mean, Nolan Sorrento is in the movie.
I know.
I enjoyed Ready Player One a lot more than this movie.
I think I did too.
Ben Mendelsohn's also Ready Player One, but I feel like that movie, as like misguided as it was in parts, it had an identity, and I keep coming back to this. Is like this one, outside of it being like rah rah like feminism, like not to say that's like a negative, but that doesn't really count as having like relatable, interesting, charismatic characters or like a driving, interesting plot. They just use that as window dressing, and it doesn't become anything more, and you're just stuck with a fucking boring ass 2-hour movie. That's
I will not choose the lesser of two evils between.
Okay, you don't have to.
I won't either. In fact, I'll say I'd probably watch this again first, just because I missed a lot of it.
I would. Well, I mean, yeah, you also fell asleep through part of it.
I think I don't. I actually don't even know. You'd be surprised to hear this. I actually don't know which I find more offensive. I feel like I keep drawing us into like really like heavy subject matter, but I kind of want to talk with the meta narrative of this movie, like sort of like what's happening outside of the movie, the way this movie is being picked apart by in the culture war, I guess. So the reason I find this like in a lot of ways like similarly offensive to Ready Player One, despite the fact that like I consider myself a feminist and I'm down with all that. I actually
I'm down with all that.
I feel like, whereas with Ready Player One, I reject everything the movie's trying to say. I feel like this has gotten to a point where I feel like this has gotten to a point where they're no longer like this movie isn't being made to further feminism. This movie is trying to use feminism to further the movie.
It's cashing in on a trend.
I feel like it's cashing in.
Yes.
And there are moments like, even I know Disney is a big corporate, but there are moments even in Disney movies where I feel like somewhere in there is a creator who like And also in this movie too, there's probably like a creator who believes in what they're doing, and in a lot of Disney movies, in Star Wars, like when they cast a woman, when they cast a black guy, I think somewhere that that might have been a board actually, but I do believe that there's someone who like genuinely believes that that's important. But with this movie, I think the reason why I'm left with this overwhelmingly cynical feeling is that I don't think that it's doing anything interesting for the conversation of feminism.
Well, okay,
even Wonder Woman did.
Yeah, the way I'm pretty sure that this works is Disney decides that it's financially beneficial and they'll get a lot more credit and a lot less criticism if they're like, okay, well, we're going to make this Star Wars movie and it's going to be diverse and we're going to make and then we're going to make Black Panther and we're going to make Captain Marvel and stuff, and they're just deciding this from a marketing standpoint. They're cashing in on trends, but I think that they hire people to write it or to direct it that care, but ultimately they have their say, where it's like, you can't do this or that because then we can't sell toys to like 10-year-old white boys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we love diversity, but no LGBTQ people in this movie because then we can't sell it in China.
Yeah, it's the same reason that we were talking about last night. Young Justice got canceled.
Yeah,
because the girls liked it and they couldn't sell toys to little girls.
Yes, that's just all like geek culture is something that has become too fucking big, where now it's not about like the stories that you're creating or anything. It's about how much merchandise you can sell, and
I'll argue that that's kind of how it's always been with the speculator boom in the 90s and stuff like that. But
sure, I mean, it's always been a business. You've always been selling products, but it's like now that it's become so mass appeal, it's far more important to make something accessible to a wider audience, so that you can sell as much merchandise off of it as you possibly can. So it's like even this movie, like we talked about, they do things with like gaslighting and the way that like women are told to not be confident or believe in themselves or that they're too emotional. The movie makes attempts at this that I commend it for trying to incorporate that in, but it just doesn't work because it's like, well, we can't delve too much on that. And then they do like a refugee thing. It's like, well, we can't make that like morally conflicting or heavy-handed because we want children to be able to understand it, and we don't want to alienate too many people. The only people we want to alienate are the people that were going to bitch about us doing this anyway. And we're going to lean in on that criticism. We're going to spread it everywhere so that anybody that didn't care about this movie has to now. Where it's like all of like Rotten Tomatoes is taking their like audience reviews. You can't post them until the movie's been released and stuff because it was like everyone is bullying Captain Marvel. We need to go save Captain Marvel. This is very important. I mean, it's the
right. It's the Ghostbusters thing.
It's the Ghostbusters thing all over again.
It's not that these bullies don't exist.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
And it's not that they're not shitty. It's that they're leaning. They're like taking.
They're capitalizing.
They're capitalizing on the bully.
And they're making people who just didn't like this movie feel then like we bungled in with like
Sony allegedly.
And in a way, and I know I'm not excusing these bullies. And I know these bullies would be a thing even if the movies were good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they're emboldening the bullies in the shitty men's rights activists and the sexists, whatever you want to call them. They're emboldening these people by so vehemently defending and politicize such an easily criticizable bad movie.
Yeah. See, because I mean, again, completely agree. These bullies do exist. They are assholes, pieces of shit that they would complain whether the movie was good or not. They've complained about all of these movies, even Ghostbusters, before the movie even came out. And, we should criticize them because they do need to change or kill themselves or whatever. But, sorry, I'm just saying,
It's fine.
They don't need to kill themselves. Just do what you're doing.
Or they can.
Just change everything about your life. But these numbers are never, ever as big as they make them out to be. And I always think that, like, these controversies get overblown to help sell the movie. Like, we had this with The Force Awakens. But pretty much the only thing that separates The Force Awakens from A New Hope is its characters and how they're not all white men. So we lean into that and we talk about Star Wars is taking brave new risks because there are all of these white men who are complaining that the only white men in the movie are an old guy that can't fly a plane and a villain. Star Wars The Force Awakens is now the third highest grossing movie in the world. Those voices were never that big. Captain Marvel is like the second. It's smashing ass at the box office right now. It's doing great, despite like it has like a 52% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, who even fucking cares what Rotten Tomatoes has to say?
Yeah.
Listen to WolfPunch for your reviews, obviously. It's just these voices are never as big as the internet makes them out to be, because when they've realized, oh shit, we made a crappy movie, we need to get people to come defend it. We need to make sure that it is important. And I mean, we planned out this whole fucking diversity thing. Why aren't people congratulating us more? Is it because it took 11 years and 21 movies to do this?
Because we had to wait to see how much money Wonder Woman made before we could greenlight ours. Yeah.
But look at how much we're being picked on. Don't you think that you should defend us? It's just.
I guess the simplest thing I can. So yeah, I get like Disney's Insidious, but like Black Panther is
Disney didn't make Insidious.
Like Black Panther is a good movie, and like Black Panther, and I know that people like some of y'all disagree with me on how good Black Panther is, but like easily you can see that Black Panther, like, that isn't just a movie that like with an all black cast. It's not just the first black superhero movie, but it's a movie that actually like furthers that conversation in an interesting way.
It did that.
I'm not saying it says things that have never been said before, but it in the mainstream says things that are not typically said in the mainstream. Having Killmonger at the end say like, throw me in the ocean with my ancestors that didn't want to be slaves, like, that's a fucking baller. That's fucking badass.
That was super
for
metal
a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Having like sort of like the way it talks about like black identity, and the way it talks about like different takes on what is the responsibility of black people to other black people and to the world, and
even just the core characters like internal conflict of having a villain that has a valid point, and then realizing like the position of power that he inherited is flawed. Like, don't get me wrong, I actually don't like Black Panther that much. I think it has terrible pacing issues and really shitty action sequences. But this is another movie where like the further I get away from it, the more and more I have to defend it on like, there's nothing wrong with this movie conceptually, and not even in the way that I'm saying like, oh, I'm going to
Black Panther. Nothing wrong with
Black Panther, okay. Like, because I'm not in the same way that like I'm saying, oh, well, I appreciate the ideas that Captain Marvel was trying to do. Black Panther lands all of its ideas. There were parts of it like where I was bored and I didn't enjoy, but then there were parts where I was like, oh fuck, this is a Disney movie. Yeah. This is a fucking Disney movie.
And you can argue that like Disney is still trying to profit, and you can and people have argued that Disney is appropriating black culture and selling it back to black people. Yeah, and that's problematic.
They started that petition. Do you remember that, when they wanted Disney to donate 25% of the box office to like social reform programs in black communities? Hey, what's the update on that? Did they do that, you think? Did anything happen there?
So, like, we can still say that, like, Disney sucks. But, like, there are moments where even though Disney sucks, good things come out of...
The people... I think the difference is...
Like,
people made Black
Panther. Because, again, they decided that they were going to do this to cash in on a trend, but they hired people that cared.
Yeah.
People that cared and people that were competent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
People that were very, very competent. Like,
yes.
Well, Black Panther, there's sort of this, like... The costume design, it does so many things that had never really been done before in the mainstream, and that were so like eye-opening to the general public. Whereas Captain Marvel like fails in every regard. Yeah, there are vague hints of like referencing gaslighting and referencing ways in which women are kept out of like leadership roles, or like, but there are vague hints of that, but nothing that hasn't been done 1,000 times before and better.
Just rent G.I. Jane. I'm sure that's on VHS somewhere.
yeah, that brings me back to the point where I feel like I almost have been giving like Marvel a little bit too much credit like these last few years, like with what they've been putting out, like with Black Panther, Infinity War, like Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok. It's like I actually like took the turn and was like, I think I'm starting to enjoy Marvel films again because it felt like things were happening and they had identities, you know, like Thor: Ragnarok is just like this goofy space comedy, you know, like Black Panther did exactly what it tried to do, set out in that regard. And like Spider-Man: Homecoming's the like goofy coming of age story where he's learning how to come to terms with his superpowers. Yeah. And then you see this one, and it's just
they forgot everything they learned.
Yeah, it literally felt like I was watching like a 2007 like superhero movie. Like
it felt like one of the first generation Marvel introduction. Except not really worse.
Yeah.
Like it seems like better technology, but like cheaper somehow.
Exactly what this movie felt like was like, okay, we need a strong female empowering superhero. Who's available to make this?
Yeah.
So they literally just did whoever we can hire, whatever director, writer we can hire to do this. Like, I'm gonna ask you guys, who do you think directed this film?
It was co-directed, I believe.
It was co-directed by who?
I looked.
Guess what?
A woman
Doesn't
and a man.
fucking matter because they didn't do shit. Anna Bode and Ryan Fleck. They have like TV credits from shows that like no one's ever really watched. So they basically just got director for hires, including a woman, so they can then push that narrative for Captain Marvel.
Wait, is it 2 women or one?
One woman, one guy.
Yeah.
I'm right. But yeah, it just feels so like boardroom calculated for this decision to be made.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I have no doubt Warner Brothers did a similar thing of like, you know, we're going to do a female movie, so we're going to hire a female director. Probably not because they cared, but because they were like, people will like us for that.
Yeah.
But they hired a director that cared about what they were doing. And again, now I'm back to citing movies that I didn't really like, but Wonder Woman is a better movie than this.
I agree fully.
And, you know...
I think at the end of the day, we talk about caring, but there's also just... The person who made this might have cared. I just think that there's something to be said for competence.
Yeah.
It's just like a thing that... It's just like a thing that exists, that just exists. I know it's subjective, but somewhere out there's a thing called competence.
Yeah.
And whoever made... And there's just a lack of that in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, and if you watched this movie and you liked it and you got something really rewarding from it, then, like, we're not making fun of you. Congratulations. That's fun. It just, to me, it doesn't matter because there's going to be more of Captain Marvel, like,
and
next
hopefully
month.
better.
And then, yeah, she's going to get more of her own movies. She's going to be in another movie this year. It's just, so this just doesn't have much of an impact on me of, like, I didn't like it, and I'm going to say why I didn't.
I think it's like important for people to maybe criticize this one, so Disney does maybe in future Captain Marvel movies be like, okay, they did not like XYZ.
Yeah, like
let's fix it.
I'll say like I'm not like stop making Captain Marvel movies. Don't make her feminist. That's not what.
Yeah.
Make her more feminist next time.
Yeah.
Do another Captain Marvel. Just don't
do more
it better.
of this.
Just
give her any personality.
Just give her more of a personality. Like, just figure out what it is you're really trying to say with this character. And like there has to be like a more of a genuine character driven vision rather than like, oh, what like kind of stock like buzzword or like sort of like headline feminism.
It's almost like they got a Google bot to like write the script for them, like just buzzwords in modern time, and then just adapt it into a superhero story.
Yeah.
So millennials like 90s nostalgia, cats,
Jesus Christ,
aliens. Jesus wasn't in the movie.
No, I'm just.
How much did I miss, Michael?
Oh, Blockbuster! Everyone likes laughing about Blockbuster.
Yeah.
I just like at the end of the day, like. I think that this, I'm not sure what the box office. I know it's doing really well. I wonder what it's gonna. I mean,
dude, Aquaman made $1 billion.
Yeah,
we don't know what the fuck happened anymore.
I don't know what. Like on one hand, I want to say like people see sophistication. On the other hand, no, they don't. But for me personally, like I enjoy
people see sophistication until they're being pandered to in some way.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm saying like when I watched Black Panther, I saw that there was like something, like there's some depth to that movie. There's some depth to the conflicts that arise between characters in that movie. But when I watched this, I didn't get that sense at all. It just has like. going back to, like, the refugee, it's like it's so skin deep, like every aspect. I think that might be like one of the more broad, like the more high level criticisms of this movie is that everything in the movie is very skin deep. Her character development, her relationships, the concept of the feminism is pretty skin deep. The take on refugees and terrorism versus self-defense, that's extremely skin deep. And then in the end, like, what story we actually watched is really like I don't at the end of that I leave it and I'm like, what did I just see? Like, what is this character anchored in? Like, Captain Marvel at the end, she's like, I'm gonna leave to take the scroll to their home. Like, who is Captain Marvel? Like, what is her home? What has she realized about, like, where she belongs? And it's like, oh, I'm a hero, I'm gonna help these people. It's like, okay, well, that was like 20, 30 years ago. Like, is there like a light speed thing that I don't know.
Yeah, it's...
Who cares?
Yeah. Like, whenever I watch these superhero movies, there'll be times where I'll like kind of sit back and think, like, okay, if I was reading this story as a comic book, because that's essentially what it is, would I enjoy this comic book? And Captain Marvel, I'm like, this is one of those 90s comics where 90s were filled with comics that, like, the art was good, but I couldn't tell you I looked at it for the pretty pictures. There were also many where, like, copycats where it's like, we'll try to copy these good artists and still not have a good story. That's what this is. This is, like, so far removed from anything good. It's just like people trying and failing. Yeah,
this is kind of again, to go back to a 90s feel, it's kind of the cinematic equivalent of everyone trying to draw like Jim Lee in the 90s.
That's exactly what this movie is.
It's just like, we've seen Marvel movies before. We know what people like about them. We could probably do that too. So here we go.
Yeah, maybe I'm giving the future a little bit too much credit, but I really think this is going to be kind of like one of the movies a lot of people point to when it's like in 20 years they're going to look back on it and just be like, this was kind of a fucking joke. Like, it's trying way too hard to be pandering to the times and what it's doing, and nothing else about it is standout, special, or really overly meaningful in what it's accomplishing.
So, not to open a can of worms here.
You mean the other 20 we already opened?
Yeah.
But, so, when you talk about, like, people looking back on this movie, I really hope that Marvel does not, like, I've been, like, so ready for Marvel to just stop for such a long time now.
Oh, God.
I hope they don't start fucking up now. Because if they do, now, every time I get on YouTube, someone's gonna be like, how Captain Marvel and feminism started the downfall of Marvel, just like they do for The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. So I really hope that Marvel gets the shit together, and I hope Infinity War is good, and I hope that Phase 4 stays good, because, like, I just don't want to see all those headlines. I hate the meta narrative of these things. I hate how people who don't really value, I'm saying, people who don't really value feminism, people who don't really value like certain, like, social justice causes, use those causes to further their products, and then they put out half-assed products that then are taken by, like, people who don't support those causes and are used to reflect what those causes are.
Sure.
I hate that, and I feel like when I was watching Captain Marvel, I'm like, this is ultimately going to be a lot of what that movie's effect is on the world.
Yeah, but
I'll just settle for them making a good fucking movie next time.
Yes, because I
mean, not to sound like an asshole, but a lot of the same gripes that have been leveled against Captain Marvel have also been leveled against Mad Max Fury Road, and that's a fan-fucking-tastic film.
Yeah. Like, Dan and I are movie people. We're certainly not as, like, politically charged as you are.
It's
He
like
hasn't-
I appreciate like them taking themes and like modern day like issues and putting them into the film. Like I'm trying to think of a way to bring it up in the context of this, but like The Dark Knight, how he uses the whole police surveillance state thing to further his goal and try to like do everything, but it's still like talks about how this is like too much power, you shouldn't have it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel too heavy-handed and too preachy, or really go to date the movie when you go back and rewatch it now.
Right? No,
I didn't know
it
that was a
explores.
thing.
Batman, both The Dark Knight and, to a lesser extent, The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Are very of their time. They really do explore the political issues of the day.
But you
And I
still
know
have
The
a
Dark Knight
great
Rises isn't
movie
a good-
that it builds off
I know
of.
The Dark Knight Rises isn't a great movie, but it explores sort of the very populist Occupy movement in an okay way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Captain Marvel explores anything in a half decent way.
No,
It's just
and-
there. It's
and-
not being explored.
And it's just like I just want to reiterate again because like Yasmin, you keep saying how leftist you are, and and that's fine, especially in this podcast because I feel like we have a lot of complaints that an alt-right group does have, but not in the same ways. So I just want to like reiterate as like Dan and I, we're movie people,
But you're movie people,
and so it's like we don't go to a movie just because it has like a female lead or a diverse cast.
We don't go to it to reaffirm our beliefs.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't not see it because of that. Where it's like you mentioned Fury Road and I'm like, great example. Because like Fury Road was fucking sweet. I made Zane and Yezin go watch it with me and I thought for sure they were going to hate it. And then they wound up really liking it. And like whenever I started reading complaints about the movie, I was baffled where they were just like
People complained about Fury Road.
not as many because it is a good movie, but there was like
There
that,
was still definitely like the turbo conservative,
Yeah.
like man hating,
Yeah.
women hating Jesus.
there was the voice of like, well, it's called Mad Max, and why the fuck is a woman like? Look, he barely says anything, and I'm like, every Mad Max movie is that way. He's like the audience insertion character who jumps into a story that isn't about him.
Yeah.
Or like again, we really liked Annihilation. It was on Dan and Michael's best of list for 2018.
It is very unfair though to compare like a comic book Marvel movie to Annihilation in
Sure.
a lot of ways outside of like the main casting of the characters.
Sure,
Yeah.
but I mean that's part of the problem with all these fucking Marvel movies is they're just big goddamn products that make them like big toothless corporate schlock to just sell money. Do you remember the 80s when fucking R-rated movies were still for kids?
Yeah,
Where
like
you could
RoboCop.
you could sell RoboCop toys. We're going to be talking about The
Commando.
Matrix soon
Yeah.
in an episode, and it's like that was an R-rated movie that everyone in the world went and saw, and I had a fucking Matrix action figure in 1999.
Oh, I had a bunch. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, these movies are all about, like, matching the product and the movie together and just trying to cash in on every trend and trope that they think will get asses in seats and then sell more material. And it's just, it's hard to stomach. I'm not even a socialist like Yezin over here, but I'm like, this is too much. This is too much sometimes. Me and Michael were in fucking comic book stores the other day, and I was just like, it's just toys everywhere. They had like a Chris Pine like Captain Kirk action figure, and it was like $25, and I'm like, that costs more than buying the movie. What is happening?
God, you sound old, right?
I know. I'm an old man. I miss when comic book conventions were about comic books, and not all these toys and television actors. Fuck Captain Marvel. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And then just to answer like a very base question, if you want to see this movie just to like have a better understanding of what happens in Endgame, don't, because you don't really get much anyways.
Oh, it says nothing about Endgame.
It says absolutely it's not necessary for watching that at all, and I feel like that was kind of like that's kind of the reason I was like I should probably see this so I have better context for Endgame. Don't
you
it doesn't
want
fucking
to understand why a cat is going to eat Thanos' glove in the next movie?
Honestly, I don't think this provides context for who Captain Marvel is.
Yeah.
No.
Skip this one before watching Captain Marvel 2.
Yeah, because like Captain Marvel is just so like you can watch the previews for this movie and get an equally good sense for who Captain Marvel is. You don't need to watch the movie. The movie will actually just confuse you more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, honestly, it'd be better to just watch Endgame and like forget that this ever.
Yeah.
existed.
Like I think like watching Endgame when I see like depending on how she's in like how she's set up to it, I'm kind of getting the vibe that she's gonna be like this Deus Ex Machina that comes in and like fixes everything.
Well, it seems like
That
from the
kind of-
after credits or the mid credits sequence, like she shows up.
She's already there.
She's
so
already there, like when the movie starts. I guess.
Hopefully that won't be how it relies, or
Yeah.
how it relies on her. I have more faith in the Russo brothers to do that. But this is the first Marvel movie that I left before the final end credit scene. I was just like, I don't fucking care at this point.
It's probably something stupid with the cat.
Who fucking cares?
Yeah, I left before the first one.
Yeah.
I was done. I can hear celebrity skin at home. I don't need to sit in your theater.
All right. Is there anything else we really need to say about Captain Marvel?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know if there's anything left. Like, I mean, I guess really based on things like, I don't think it looked very good.
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. I thought this outside of like maybe in as many shots as I can count on my hand, it looked incredibly flat and uninspired. So a couple of CGI shots looked flat out fucking laughable.
Yeah.
Like there's that one at the end where she like is like backflipping down from like the atmosphere in there. And, like,
yeah.
she has the suit flung over her. That looked like a fucking video game. Like
I
it
would-
looked like a PS2 game.
I
You
was
mean when she
real-
almost hits the ground?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like it was embarrassing.
I would say it gave me strong Doctor Who vibes.
Yeah.
which is not a thing you want to get
in your $1 million
from a high budget like Marvel movie. Like,
And like, honestly, one thing I was excited about going to this movie, just from I like superheroes and I like superhero costume designs. I love in the comics her space helmet, and that looked awful. So even the one thing I was like, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, you love stupid comic book shit in movies.
And it
how
just
about the
looked so
scene
bad.
where the little girl is helping her decide the colors for her costume?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And the little girl just immediately knows how to operate her alien
Yeah, that was
tech.
really weird.
What about the fact that no one in this movie seems to really give a shit that there's aliens showing up on Earth? and
No,
all
Stan
this
Lee's
crazy
busy
shit
reading the
going
script to Mallrats. He doesn't-
Oh my god, did you see Kevin Smith's post about
Yeah, I
that?
did.
About him crying
He
about how
was
beautiful
crying.
the movie was
Oh
and
my
how
god.
he's
Yes.
happy to be canon in the Marvel
Yeah.
Cinematic Universe.
I think every comic book movie makes Kevin Smith shed a tear. now.
Yeah,
But
it does.
At least this
I don't
one.
know what happened to him.
At least this one like referenced him, where he's like, "Oh, Stan Lee, who's dead now, is reading my script for that movie he was in."
Green Lantern's a better fucking film than this.
I know when we walked out of the theater, I said I would rather watch Justice League again than watch this. And
At least
I
Green Lantern
hate
tries
Justice
to
League.
have like funny, witty jokes
Yeah.
with Ryan Reynolds.
some of those land
At
because
least,
Ryan Reynolds.
what was it? Mark Strong played Sinestro in that.
Yeah.
He was fun.
I would say that Green Lantern had a better structure than this.
Didn't have better CG.
Hey,
It didn't have better CG. I don't know if it was a better movie, but it had better structure.
I would say it was a more interesting film watching it
like
than this.
like you watch it, you know who your character is, you know what the plot is quicker. Whereas with this, you're watching, and then it's a good 45 minutes till you like really know what
What you're
the
watching.
the conflict is.
No argument here. When she walks up to her, like when she first visits her best friend, and she's like, "So you don't remember anything?" She's like, I see images, but I don't know what they mean." I was like, "That's where I'm at right now in this movie." So
Yeah.
I could really relate to Captain Marvel. Actually, I take back all my previous criticisms about her character.
WolfPunch.